Next, I welcome Dr. Shantanu Pandey to discuss about the issues of hybrid revascularization.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll keep things short as most of the thing in hybrid has been covered. The OPCAP has been covered, the minimal invasive has been covered. So I will be guilty of my presentation being heavily loaded with evidence, as there is a feeling that if this procedure has to survive, it has to be on evidence. So hybrid revascularization is simple. We combine PCI and mid-cap or MICS CABG, or it can be robotic. Robotic, if it can be done, will be better. Now what is the need? It was Angelini in 1996 who basically proposed this concept, and the need has arisen because there was widespread use of drug-eluting stent, which was heavily talked down upon, and the Lima results, internal mammary artery to LAD, which were published and were excellent. Now the other factor was that long-term results of the patency of saphenous vein were debatable, and the cardiologist and the evidence suggested that the patency of the venous graft may be in the same range in short, medium term as the patency of a drug-eluting stent. So Barner colleague believe that it realistically will be around 74% at 3 to 5 years, which is the patency of a drug-eluting stent by that time. Now if we consider the real world situation, ideally there are a lot of randomized controlled trials which compare CABG and PCI, but the problem is only 4% of the patients who are screened were included in these trials, and there have been around 8 trials like this. The second thing is around 1/4 of patients get CABG when we compare the patients who are referred for revascularization strategy. There was an interesting paper by Michael Mack which has compared from 7 different centers in America the patients who have consecutive patients who have undergone CABG and who have undergone a PCI. Now there were around 28% of patients of the total who underwent CABG, and the rest underwent PCI, and they found that CABG performed better at 7 years follow-up when it is compared to PCI. And in PCI itself, the drug-eluting stent was comparing approximately equal to OPCAPs and non-pumps. The bare metal stent was basically, according to them, was pulling the results of PCI down. Now, if from this background, what we are trying to propose in hybrid revascularization is taking the good from both the sides, from the stents, drug-eluting stents, as well as minimal invasive part of coronary revascularization, surgical revascularization strategies. So the issues here are basically the timing. PCI first or surgery first or staged procedure or simultaneous. The current understanding is that it should be simultaneous. The reason for that is now we have wonderful hybrid operating rooms. Cardiologists prefer to say hybrid cath labs. We call it operating rooms. Now basically they are one and the same. The advantage is that suppose we are doing mixed CABG and it is preferred that surgery is done before. Suppose we are doing mixed CABG and we have some problem, as we have been discussing in previous presentation, and we have to convert. Then either the whole patient goes for stent or the whole patient is shifted, converted to a standard coronary artery bypass. The other strategy, better strategy, is to do the surgery first, because then when you are doing PCI, you can see the patency of Lima to LAD, which is our basically our main graft. and it will cause less bleeding because antiplatelets can be held, the real antiplatelets can be held before the CABG is done. The other thing is, when we do it staged, it is mostly done for a rescue PCIs. The patient has come in emergency and he requires a PCI either to the circumflex or to the right artery. You have done the PCI and you have left the patient for surgery to be done later. Now the advantages of hybrid revascularization is the advantages of PCI. Basically advantages of PCI, because in hybrid revascularization the cardiologist has to play the main role. Now it converts a complex PCI into a simpler one. The interesting thing is, when you do a stenting, there is shift of the plaque and there is stenosis at the origin of the daughter artery. Now CABG or mix can take care of this. Suppose like we are discussing the left main disease, you do a stent for left main disease which basically causes stenosis to the circumflex, which basically is causing the stenosis to the LAD, and you have already grafted IMA to LAD. So the jailed artery is getting a graft and the left main is now completely supplying the circumflex. Major part is supplying the circumflex. So it basically shifts a complex PCI into a simple one. And mid-cap or MICS has its own advantages over op-cap, which we will be discussing later. So what the indications are? There are no indications as such of hybrid revascularizations. Whatever the studies are available, the major indications have been rescue PCI in multimorbid patients, where the patient prefers that he would go in for a hybrid revascularization, or if the coronary morphology is such that you require this. Now the other interesting thing is how it compares with op-cap or on-pump CABG in short term and in long term. There have been a lot of studies coming up now, and there have been a lot of studies with a good number of patients, between 100 and 300 patients. One of the studies from Leipzig of Hosley et al. has around 1,000 patients in which Lima to LAD was grafted. So in hospital, 30-day outcome was similar in hybrid revascularization compared to op-cap. And the other study, again, as we have discussed previously, there was slight difference in the soft targets, like blood transfusion was less in hybrid revascularization, renal failure was similar, but ventilation time and ICU stay was less in hybrid revascularization, as expected. There is a very interesting article which is coming up, it is still in press, available online, which compares patients with Syntax as well as Euroscore between conventional CABG and hybrid revascularization. So they have formed 4 groups: less than 32 Syntax, more than less than 32 and more than 33 Syntax, Euroscore less than 5 and more than 5. So this is very interesting. More than 33 Syntax have shown in Syntax trial that they do not do well with PCI even in short term. Now, if you see here, there is no difference between hybrid revascularization and CABG in these 3 boxes. But when we have Euroscore more than 5 and Syntax more than 33, then CABG is definitely better than hybrid revascularization, because these are patients who are at higher risk for surgery, and these are the patients who are at high risk for PCI. If interestingly we see here, basically the hybrid revascularization, though there was no significant difference, but they have done slightly better. If the Syntax was less, this means the PCI targets were easy and the patients were slightly higher risk. As they were comparable when the Syntax was higher, that is PCI, if it would have been done alone, would not have given a good result. But when it was compared with CABG, in normal risk patients, the results are comparable, quite comparable, 4 and 5%. So this is a very interesting article. Now, if we, from Halkas et al., we see the 5 years survival. Now, this was a projected survival. This was not actually followed up for 5 years. This is a projected survival in which they project that there is no difference, but hybrid will do slightly better. Long-term long-term outcome from Hosley et al. This is a Leipzig Center study. More than 1,000 patients in this study have shown that the result is quite acceptable and comparable to OPCAB. About the patency at 1 year, which has been raised in which is an important previously raised issue. The hybrid surgery has around 100% graft patency. The reason for this is we do IMA to LAD using minimal invasive surgery, do a PCI, and at the time of PCI we check the patency of the graft. So the patency of the graft was much better than OPCAB in this study. The important thought is when you start experimenting with things, there are interesting things and thoughts which come up. There were patients who were referred for MICS, they received Lima to LAD and they were followed up. Non-invasive testing was done and it was found that they do not have any problem. They were asymptomatic now and non-invasive testing do not show any ischemia, though the sensitivity and specificity hovers around 70 to 80%. So these are the interesting subset of patient coming out from the idea of hybrid surgery, and the question is whether they require something else to be done or not. If getting IMA to LAD and you stop there and you give only grafts or you give PCIs later on to the patients who become symptomatic. There was an interesting BMJ article which by Aziz in BMJ 2007, which has compared, which has done actually the meta-analysis of many articles in the patients who have normal ejection fraction and who were comparable basically to Courage and Mass study. And basically Courage and Mass study has given more impetus to this idea. Similarly, there was 4 patients who were similarly managed who required a Lima to LAD graft, and then the PCI was deferred because they never had angina, and the follow-up is available for now more than 5 years. Now the cost concerns. There is no significant difference in the cost, but this is a Western slide. There is no significant difference if we see the total, the difference is not significant because they have divided it into the operative and the post-operative cost. When you see the combined cost, there is no significant difference. There is significant difference in the cost of procedure, and there is significant difference in the post-operative cost, going one to the either side, and that is why it is making it insignificant. Again, this is in dollars. Now, if we project the cost of hybrid surgery at my center at SGPGI, mid-cap or MICS CABG will cost 65,000. One vessel PTCA costs around 80,000 if we use a drug-eluting stent, and cost of OPCAB is around 80,000. Now, MICS cost is less because the sternal wires are taken off, the sutures are used are less. Our institution is government supported institution, and we expect that the cost of 65,000 can still be brought down to 50,000 because non-stenotomy octopus stabilizer and starfish is costing 3 lakhs. So if we divide it into 10 patients, it will cost 30,000 per patient. But beyond 10 patients, we are not charging anything. So this cost in our hospital may come down, but still if you get do PTCA, drug-eluting stent, and MICS in our hospital, this will be somewhere around 2.25 to 2.5 lakhs. So this is definitely cost-heavy procedure if we consider this in India, as compared to a standard OPCAV which will cost 80,000 all over the country. Now this has been nicely discussed, MICS technique before, but the only difference is I have found that using retractor, soft tissue retractor, gives a better field of vision. We have been using Thoratec device. This is Lima to LED anastomosis which is seen. Oh, sorry. And this is how we approach the OM vessels, in which radial artery has been grafted as a Y graft. It comes over here, and this is the Ziphisternum starfish, and this is the octopus. The second thing which I want to highlight is octopus nuvo is much better than the octopus which we have, the first generation non-sternotomy octopus. Slightly costly, but it is much better. There is a 360 rotation at the fixation point, and that is very, very useful. And this is what the result is after the surgery. And the patient gets discharged on second day. I would like to finish my slide with the patient's, the article which talked of patient satisfaction after MICS CABG, which was in hybrid surgery was 83%, and this is too high compared to 42%. It's almost double in patient who underwent OPCAV. So the patients are happy, the procedure is safe, the procedure of MICS is very simple if we have to graft only IMA to LED. And as the number of cases increase and the experience increase, this will become more and more standard. PTCA to the other vessels give equivalent result to vein grafts. So this is a special niche for hybrid revascularization. The cost will definitely be slightly higher than if we compare in our country with OPCAV. But this procedure will have to fight for itself, and as we see, as the procedure as this procedure grows, maybe MICS CABG will use it as a crutch. If suppose the experience of MICS surgeons increases and it goes beyond say 200, 500, 600 cases, then I am pretty sure that all the vessels will be grafted from 2 inches incision, and then this procedure will have the real threat of disappearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shantanu, for an excellent presentation. Do you have a hybrid theatre in your theatre?
We do not have hybrid theatre. I have, when I was given this task of preparing the presentation for this conference, I talked with the cardiologist, and he was very prompt, and within 2 hours I got the first patient. I asked apology from him because I had to fly to Hyderabad. He was expecting me to operate the patient today so that he can put in the stent on Monday. So what we have planned is we do CABG first. After extubation, the patient will be mobilized, and on the second day the PCI and stenting will be done. Because we do not have a hybrid cath lab or operating room, but this is one practical strategy which will be liked by the cardiologist because they want to see a moving patient, and they will not be, because when I discussed with the cardiologist at my center, he said that he wants an awake patient to do a PCI. He somehow feels that the patient tells when the procedure may go wrong. So he says if the patient can communicate, can talk, it will be better for him. He is not very comfortable with the idea of doing it under anesthesia. So simultaneous for now is out because we do not have that facility. But what we are planning is we do a CABG first and a PCI later. So we get Angiograms of all our patients too. PCI first and followed by CABG. This can also be done, but the only thing which I personally feel against this strategy is we will have an opportunity to see the patency of Lima to LED, and then you proceed with the stenting.
What about the anticoagulation they give and they don't want to stop clopidogrel after PCI?
If they do PCI first. Most of the experience of most of the people who have done MICS, the bleeding doesn't concern us so much. The bleeding is really less from MICS incision. Until and unless, the second thing is I use harmonic scalpel for dissecting an IMA. I do not use clips, and maybe that is gives us slightly extra confidence that the bleeding from the side branches of IMA or the Lima bit will not be there, but the bleeding is definitely less. I do not think that clopidogrel will be that big a risk. Anyway, in hybrid surgery where a CABG is done first, they advise to give clopidogrel loading dose and then do the CABG followed by a PCI. So in the morning he receives 325 milligrams of 4 tablets of clopidogrel, undergoes a CABG and then a PCI.
Most of the patients whom we get are those people undergo salvage procedures, primary PTCAs to the culprit vessel, and they come to us sometimes within a week or 10 days. Then we cannot stop antiplatelets. We have to plan surgery as an emergency because they are unstable in spite of stenting. So recently, that set of patients are more like where we are doing that. This also can be called a hybrid procedure. Maybe not within a day or two, but within a week we are operating. But we don't have hybrid theatre here. So maybe all of us should ask for theatre in each unit.
This is also, actually it is the same thing. This is basically the stage procedure, and this is the most standard indication of hybrid surgery today. You do a PCI to culprit vessel, ask the patient to come after 15 days or a month and do a MICS if the patient is stable. But if the patient is unstable angina or is in semi-emergency, then you have to go with the standard incision.
Yeah.
But to me it still remains a hybrid procedure where he has received 2 grafts and he has received a Lima to LED.
To the
Yeah.
culprit.
How many grafts are given? How many grafts are given? What are the results are going?
In our experience at SGPGI, we have, as we have discussed previously, I have done only 28 cases. I have given a PDA graft. I use Lima and radial artery Y and have given sequential graft to OM and PD. Out of those 28 cases, only 5 patients have been triple vessel disease or who received 3 grafts. As a very important point raised, in these 28 cases, there has been instance of at least 3 times when the PD, which I felt was small and did not require a graft. But I had this doubt in my mind, is it really small and do not require a graft, or is it the comfort of the procedure which is making me believe that this do not require a graft? That question still remains to be answered.
How many cases converted in the regular sternotomy?
3 cases I have converted to sternotomy of these 28. One patient had no flow in the internal mammary artery, and later I found that there was proximal dissection in the internal mammary artery. The other one was the pressure was going down gradually after the first graft when we were preparing to do the second graft, and the anesthesiologist was not comfortable. The patient was on single lung ventilation, pressures going down. So we put in an IVP and we converted to standard CAB, op pump CABG. The third patient had Lima to LED, Lima to radial anastomosis. After it was completed, after 2 grafts were done, there was a bleeding from the Y anastomosis. I was not able to look up where to take the stitch, and it was basically on the right side of the anastomosis. that was the reason I had to convert. There was substantial bleeding there.
It's nice to hear about the hybrid theatres. As a concept, as an improvement in the infrastructure, improving the patient comfort and patient compliance, it is very good. As a concept, from my generation, I would say, even in late 70s and early 80s, it is there. If you see how the planning of the hospital and the departments have developed from 50s to 60s, in late 50s and early mid 60s or even late 60s, the theatres and the cath labs were far apart, close to the departments concerned. Then came in 70s, they were in the same floor, or at least in the same floor, end of each floor, theatre and the cath lab. And as the complications and the interventions and the investigations were increasing, in 1980s, the theatre and the cath lab were at least planned as side by side. And if you see one of the early such planning in 1990s, very early 90s, Solomon Victor's center in Vijaya Hospital, he had just one wall separating the cath lab and the theatre with a middle a big door which can be closed and opened within few minutes as an access to each other. That was because of the complications they had to face at the time of investigation only, not intervention.
Okay.
Then the late 90s, 90s and late 90s, complications with more interventions have improved, and then the hybrid concept has come. It's nicely, for a man of my generation, it's nice to see how things have evolved. Nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Well, if there are no more questions, we will conclude the
Thank
session.
It was not there at the present day. How many proximal can eligible to put?
Usually we put 2 proximals to iota. Till now, if space is available, third graft can also be available, but till now we could put only 2 proximals to the iota.
I have a feeling that if we are to move towards MICS-CABG, we will have to fight our previous dogmas. We have to resurrect few things from grave. Either it be Lima radial Y, or either it be all around the world graft. Because if you graft one vein and if you can graft diagonal, OM and PD on that vein using sequential anastomosis, because sequential anastomosis is going to be very important and pivotal if MICS-CABG is to survive, because the time of operating has to become shorter. When I did my first MICS-CABG, it was 6.5 hours. So anesthesiologists will not survive that long.
The sequential anastomosis is time long, it is not so comfortable, and then long-term results are always has shown that reports, it is most of the grafts fail, and in between grafts fail. It is well recorded and well shown that. So we have to be very careful in this sequential grafting.
That is true, sir, but that is why I said few graves are to be digged, and we have to make few things work before MICS really picks up. And we have to get really comfortable with doing sequential anastomosis, because it is a very important basically arm in the armamentarium of surgeon, coronary surgeon basically.